Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
And today it's actually Purple Access coming at you. It's Judd, it's Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune columnist, and Declan Goff, executive producing, as he always does in such a fine manner. And Chip, welcome back to the show. I want to start you with this. So we are now to the always interesting springtime phenomenon of OTAs, organized team activities. The Vikings will be on the field next week. We will have access to watch what they do on Tuesday. What is your curiosity? And not that you glean a ton from these things, but just in general, what is your curiosity about watching the entire process when it comes to fifth round quarterback Jaren Hall? Just as far as like, not just what he does and not just how he throws or begins to understand the offense, but also, and I think this is the most interesting thing to me personally, also the relationship that Kevin O'Connell develops, because we have seen, Chipper, through the years, we have seen a lot of, quarterbacks drafted in late rounds. And for the most part, I think we shrug and we're like, okay, there's the next JDB. And, we'll see him at Applebee's until he's cut, which we did once with John Sullivan.
Inside joke there.
which we did once. Yes.
But the look on their face when they walked in and saw me and you sat at the bar.
Oh, they were not happy. They're like, oh, Christ.
They thought they found a spot, didn't they? They thought they had found a spot.
No, this is our spot, guys. This is our spot. But what's your curiosity, the development of Jaren Hall?
Well, you say we can't glean much, and we can't. You can't really be anything definitive. However, we felt pretty definitive watching Kellen Mond last year.
Yeah.
You knew that was not going to work, right? I mean, it took training camp when it's a little closer to real football when you saw that was just not, they're not going to go forward with him. So, I think I'm curious to see how Kevin O'Connell talks about Jaren Hall and how much time because so much of this stuff is about the starters and getting them reps. And I don't know how many reps Jaren Hall will get, as the third guy. I assume he'll start as the third guy behind Mullins.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see what Kevin O'Connell says about him, about his progressions. He's never, I don't know he's ever going to cut open the vein and give you true serum answers.
Right.
But, we'll be able to watch like velocity on his passes and that type thing. But I'm just kind of curious to see his overall feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just is this guy going to be I don't. You never want to put a limitation on a guy, but I don't see him being the guy going forward. But could he be a backup for you? And could he be your number two for a number of years? Possibly.
And I think where my curiosity lies is the O'Connell side of this too, though, because Chipper, we haven't seen. Mike had assistant coaches that certainly worked with the young QBs who were brought in, but Mike didn't, and he didn't. I don't mean to be a jerk about this, but he didn't care that much because he was a defensive guy and basically wanted the offense not to screw up his defense. This might be, if I'm not mistaken here, Chip, the first young quarterback that we have really seen worked with since Tavares Jackson was a second round pick in 2006 by Brad Childress, who of course, and in Tavares, I don't know that, God rest his soul. I don't know that Tavares was ever going to be successful, but I also didn't think that he got a great chance here. Like, he was put into a system which the Vikings said, you will work within the confines of this. So with O'Connell, I'm really curious to see with this sort of piece of clay, how he molds it.
Well, this is O'Connell's pick.
Right.
I mean, you have to think that this is the guy he wanted at the, in the spot in the draft where they took him. And so he saw something he likes and that he thinks he can mold and that he can, work with and develop. And so this is, they hired O'Connell in part, maybe a large part, to figure out the quarterback situation. I don't think it's this guy, but you drafted him with an idea that he's going to be something for you, whether it's a long-term backup or what have you. So, I want to see how O'Connell really develops this kid and see what he can do with, a prospect. Because, yes, he can improve Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins is sort of what he is, right? I mean, you can help him with, maybe playing faster or being, good within your system, but
Amen.
the mold of clay was there. It was already molded. So I am curious to see, like, I assume he'll get a lot of hands-on work, but like in team stuff, how many reps is
That
all going to get? That's the thing I don't know.
Right, and
But,
sorry, go ahead.
and we've seen how O'Connell handled the first couple of years, is where it was pretty light, pretty laid back, not a lot of. It was unlike a lot of OTAs and training camps that we've seen. So I'm curious to see if that changes too.
Yeah, and I guess my question is this, and I don't know. So I'm going from a starting point of not having a clue, but with a quarterback with a head coach whose forte is in quarterbacks. To your point, like, you're not going to give him first team reps. Like those don't exist. So how do you? And again, it's a question. It's not a indictment. How do you develop him? That's what I'm really curious to see, because I have no clue, because I don't think we've ever really seen it done here for years and years.
Does he get to? Do you think year one he gets to ascends to the number 2 spot?
I think he makes the 53. I don't think he goes to number 2 unless somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, it just seems like it's something you can slow play, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least for this year. It's like you don't, Nick Mullins, whatever. I mean, he maybe your backup, but and we know Kurt, his history of durability. So, but this is O'Connell's pick, right? This has to be the quarterback that I'm sure he studied all the quarterbacks, and this is the guy he zeroed in on. So let's see what he can do with him.
Off that point, so it's clear that just from the various reports that came out around the draft, Chipper, that the Vikings had conversations about trying to move up. There was a report, I think, from Tom Pelissero after the draft that they had actually talked about trying to go get Bryce Young. What is your and we don't know this, but what is your gut or your feeling about your trust in what they're doing here? Because there's obviously multiple options, and they've obviously at times shot very high. Now they came away with a 5th round pick, but what's your trust in how this process is unfolding? Because I find it to be really, really intriguing.
In terms of just the quarterback position?
Yeah, just the quarterback position and what you're seeing.
I don't know. I think it's to be determined, right? We know they like Richardson a lot. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago when I was on. Is like, I think they have an idea of the type of quarterback they want. Mobile, athletic. I could see him going that way, but I still wonder. And this is the crux of it, Judd. I don't think they're going to be bad enough to be in the discussion to get. I don't see them bottoming out.
Great.
If that's, and so let's say they go 9-8. Where is that going to put you in the draft pecking order? And do they have enough ammunition, or would they be willing to give up a bunch of future firsts, to try to really go up and be in the Caleb Williams, Drake May discussion?
Or is there a potential, because we don't know the plans, like there's clearly multiple plans here, or is there a plan where they just try to keep Kirk for another year?
Well, I could see that. And again, there's part of me that doesn't think that an extension's this summer sometime as the door's shut. I mean, I would not be surprised if they added another year to give them a little more runway to figure this out, because I don't think they want to be in a situation where, like, all right, now you've got to draft a quarterback and this has to be the guy. Like, you're under the gun. Like, this is it. They don't want to be in that situation.
Right.
It's funny that O'Connell has floated bridge a couple times. I've heard him say bridge,
Yes.
which if I was ranking my the wish list, that would probably be down low because a bridge, you're just
Well,
delaying the obvious. And not to say you can't have success with a bridge. I mean, we've seen it, I mean, Case, they had a really good year with the bridge, but I don't know. I just think it's, if you can avoid having to do that, that's preferable, but maybe they won't. Maybe Kirk just says, I'm moving on after this, and they don't want to trust it to a rookie, or they don't like, anybody, or they're not in a position to get somebody they like, and you have to go bridge. But I don't you think that feels like the last alternative for them?
I think it does, and I think that would depend on Kirk saying bye.
Yeah.
I think with Kirk in some ways, and we don't know this fully yet, Chip. I think they're dealing from a position of power because he does want to stay here.
Mhm.
And so, I don't think that they have moved on from Kirk. I think that they
No.
are, that for the first time since Kirk got here in 2018, that they are saying, Kirk, we're exploring options here, and you might not be it, but you might be too. So hang
Yeah.
loose. So this is going to sound crazy, but in some ways, at the end of the day, for a year or two more, could Kirk be the bridge? Because I'm with you. The worst thing you could do is say, okay, screw it. We have to draft a quarterback now. That's Christian Ponder. That's how you got there.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's not to say, you can't be paralyzed by the Ponder or the idea of Ponder, right? Like, oh my God, we can't repeat history. Well, then, don't, find a better quarterback.
Right.
But it is, I don't know if game of chicken is the right way, but it is, as much as we know Kirk loves it here and he wants to retire here and all that, just takes one team after the season to say, hey, we want you to come be our guy, and here's X number of money, and we're gonna give you 4 years, and maybe he walks, and then but I agree with the way they're handling it in terms of I would not go 3 or 4 years extension with him, Judd. I think it's
I agree totally. Yes.
at the money that he's gonna command or want. I wouldn't do that, and so it's a fascinating, delicate dance that they're walking right now.
Yes.
That you can see going. There's like 4 different scenarios that are realistic for how this thing will play out. And I'm sure they have, like, in their meeting rooms, path 1, path 2, path 3, here's what we're going to do. I mean, you have to have all the contingencies for every scenario.
And the really interesting thing about this now too is, at this point in time, until he proves he can't do it, and he's a long way from that, there has to be a certain amount of faith put in O'Connell that he can make it work, right? So if you get a bridge, the problem previously with Mike here and the bridge, and Keenum worked out spectacularly in 17, but the problem there was, he's like, okay, play this guy, we'll play this guy. But with O'Connell, you got to think, if it's a bridge, he's going to know far more about what he's looking at for that bridge.
Yeah.
So there has to be a trust tree with Kevin O'Connell to a point that hasn't existed here from a quarterback standpoint in a long time, as far as identifying and getting the most from that player.
And how much do you think this year, let's say they go, I don't think they're winning 13 games again, right? Let's say they go 9-8, maybe 10-7. Get to the playoffs. They lose in the first round again. Kirk has another good year, but they're still kind of stuck in that same spot. I mean, how many times do you just keep saying, let's run it back and hope it, even if it's the defense's fault, even if it's, the defense is not fully fixed and there's still a detriment to them. I just wonder when when they're going to say, let's turn a page and try something different.
I think they're going to eventually. I think they want to, because it's not like they brought back the entire team again. 2021 into 22 is going to be incredibly different from a personnel standpoint than 22 into 23. So I think that there's a desire to do that. But at this position, you also can't just say, screw it, we'll start this guy unless you're damn sure. So that's what makes it intriguing.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot different saying we're moving on from Eric Kendricks than we're moving on from established quarterback. So it's like it's tricky, and I have to look at the quarterback class next year. We know the top two, but what's 3, 4, 5?
I've seen the list, but yeah,
are they going to be first round picks? I don't know. So that will be, maybe they fall in love with someone that's probably more in line with where they're going to be drafting. Like, again, I just don't think they're going to. The tanking that's going to go on for Caleb Williams, I mean, you're really going to have to be really bad next year to be in that discussion.
Definitely.
Unless you're going to give up a lot of future assets, which I would do probably, to get that kid.
Right. Got a question for you off that point, but before I get to that question, I want to talk to you about my friends at Livia Weight Control Center, Chipper. Lose up to 10 pounds by Memorial Day with their doctor-recommended program. That's right. You too can go from looking like the guy on the left to looking like the guy on the right. Are those the same person? I can confirm they are the same person because that person is me, and I want you to be next to experience not only the great gift of weight loss, but also of keeping that weight off. That's the most important thing. Join today. You're going to get 3 months free. Get summer ready right now by calling 855-GO-LIVIA, livia.com, livea.com. 3 months free, 10 pounds off by Memorial Day, and then you're going to keep it off. What more could you ask for? So, off that point, Chipper, could you ever see a day, post Cousins, obviously, probably, where they do tank? And if not, how do you think they're going to solve this quarterback problem?
I'm just going off my experience, Judd. I don't think the Wilfs would have the stomach for it. What was the only year that they were in, and they weren't tanking, they were just bad, but the Leslie Frazier year when they lost like all those blown leads. How many games did they win that year?
3. I think they went 3-13 and got Matt Khalil.
Yeah. So do I see another? I mean, in my time, that's the only one I can really remember where the sky's falling, Yep. So this is not an organization that's typically in that position. They're stuck in the middle, good, but not great. Playoff team, but not a real contender. So I guess if you have a rookie quarterback, it could be rough. But I still look at, when you have a Justin Jefferson, it's hard to think that this team's going to be terrible. When you have, young talent that's good, I don't think that they're going to be in that spot. Now, you get hit with a ton of injuries, okay, that changes everything. But we just haven't seen him very much be in that ballpark, Judd.
No, I mean, in my time, just going back as a kid, as a fan, following the team, they were god-awful under Les Steckel in 84. To your point, was that 2011 or 12?
I think it was 12 because that's when I went back on 12 because I went back on the beat.
They won 3 games there, but I mean, yes, they have been really not all that competitive, but like as far as the, oh my gosh, we have a top 5 draft pick to take a quarterback, but the problem is this. Caleb Williams is almost certainly going to be taken by a team that tanks on purpose.
Yes.
And so it's not going to be like, I mean, the fact Chicago traded its first overall pick is not going to become, in my opinion, the norm.
No.
It's going to be, we got to take that quarterback.
Whoever's, I mean, he's going number 1, and there's going to be a race to get to that spot to get to him because I just think he's that talented. So I don't see them in that spot. And so that's where, can you find your franchise quarterback outside those top 2? That's hey, guess what? That's why you hire Kevin O'Connell.
Or does KOC start Jaren Hall in 2024 and let the chips fall where they may, baby?
Yeah,
just lose a ton.
Yeah,
hey, Jaren.
Yeah, you're starting.
You tried hard, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny because if there's not an extension, and I don't, with Cousins before the season, I don't think it's going to be a weekly talker, but come December, it's going to be a weekly talker.
Oh God, yeah, no question.
November, where it's going to be, and he's going to get asked about a lot. I don't think it'll affect his play. He's done a pretty good job of anytime he's had contract issues, he just kind of he does a pretty good job of compartmentalizing and just being who he is. So I don't think it's going to affect his play or his attitude, but we're going to be talking about this in December if this is, coming down the stretch and he, this is it.
Absolutely. And, if he's playing well, it's going to be a very interesting discussion. If he's not, it's going to be more so, because at that point in time too. And look, I mean, I think in some ways, and I don't blame him, I don't think the Vikings mind putting this pressure on him.
Sure.
Like at this point with Kwesi and Kevin, I think putting this pressure on Kirk is absolutely fine, because they probably want to see how he reacts as well.
Well, they have their eye on the future. And if this is a byproduct that there's pressure on him, then so be it. That's just how it has to be. But they're not going to cave and, they're going to hold line. They're not going to give him a 3 or 4 year extension. They've made that clear, right? And so if it puts pressure on him, then that's part of the business. I think they understand that he probably can handle it, right? That is not going to be, he's not going to be disruptive or anything like that. So I don't think they mind in that way.
Thoughts on the 2023 schedule? What did you think of that once we saw the opponents, not just the opponents, but the list as well of how they're going to fall out?
Yeah, I did. It's obviously a difficult schedule. When you're playing, that group of quarterbacks.
Philly on Thursday night in week 2.
Philly, yeah. I mean, look at so the quarterbacks are what?
Jalen Hurts, Herbert in week 3,
Burrow in week,
Mahomes in week 5. Yep, and then Burrow comes in
at
week
Cincy,
15
right?
at Cincinnati. Yeah. And if Russell Wilson rebounds with Sean Payton, which I think he very well might, that Broncos game, I think we all now think the Broncos aren't good, but Sean Payton is a very good coach, and I would not be surprised if they are a playoff team.
Yeah, maybe Russell Wilson's just bad now, or he is. I put a lot on that coach. I put a lot on. It's just the incompetence there, and so we'll see. I mean, Sean Payton's a great coach, so but Judd, those quarterbacks going against that defense, it better be good. It better be improved. And
early too, Chipper.
Yeah,
Hurts, Herbert, Mahomes within what, a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 4-week span. So like that secondary better hold up.
Yeah. And does it, I want to see, and Cousins goes against, top quarterbacks all the time too, but this will be another storyline for, those weeks is like, you're facing these top quarterbacks, can Cousins, stack up and score a lot of points? Because I think they're definitely gonna have to win a certain way this year. I think the defense will be better because it can't be worse, but I don't know how much better. And I think their offense is gonna be better.
Both should be too.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this the last time we chatted a couple weeks ago. That offense, in my opinion, scoring wise, should be like a top 5.
Well, yeah,
it's funny. Producing a lot of points.
This is how it's going to be. Like, I think the offense is going to score more. I think the defense will be better. I don't know how much better, but I think they'll be better. But I think they'll have a worse record just because of, you're not going 9-0 in 1-score games again. I mean, that was an outlier. So, but yeah, I mean, there's no reason that offense shouldn't be better. What are they going to do with Alvin? When's that? Is that going to be the post? Is that going to be a June thing, I assume?
I think it's over, but I just don't know when exactly.
Yeah.
Which by the way, is like fine. I'm absolutely
for that money, yeah. I mean, he was definitely feast or famine last year. I mean, the home run plays stood out, obviously, but there's a lot of negative yard runs. I mean, I'm fine with going with Alexander.
Yes.
And whoever they piece it together with.
The last 3 games are intriguing, all within the division. You go versus Detroit, versus Green Bay on Sunday night, and then you close on the 7th of January at Detroit. So here's my question for you, buddy. Are you buying as much Lion stock as a lot of people, including the league, are, because they put Detroit in primetime on Thursday night against Kansas City to open the season?
Do I have the guts to pick the Lions to win the division?
That's the question. Yes. You just asked yourself a very important question. Are you man enough to answer it on this show right now?
Is this thing catalog so people can come
Oh
back and
God.
see it?
Oh, it could be pulled at any moment. As soon as
I don't
you say
trust
it,
the Lions ever.
I agree.
I don't trust the Lions ever. I'm too scarred from, them screwing it up somehow. They'll be the fashionable pick to win the division, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, Judd. I think they're good, but they're the Lions, so I always expect something goofy to happen. Are you picking them to win the division? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe because here's my problem. They now have expectations.
Sure.
And I don't know that they won't fold. Just enough to cost themselves. I can't get past this, Chip. They should have won here last year.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan Campbell, after going for it all game, decides to, that stupid field goal attempt and pisses away the entire game. And that, there's Dan Campbell things I can't get past.
I know. That's it. And I think you're 100% right about the expectations. You can say that stuff doesn't matter. It does. It has an effect. I mean, we've seen teams that don't handle that well. And I just don't know if they have the right makeup to handle it well. Maybe they do. Maybe they'll prove that they can and gamble.
He's so high.
I have my
he's so
the
high
roller coaster
low.
thing. Yeah, the roller coaster would
Ticey.
Yeah. I mean, when it's good with him, it's great, right? But if it does get tight and anxiety starts to spike, is he going to lower the temperature or raise it? I don't know. I mean, I think they're really talented. I think there's a lot of stuff to like about that team. But I think it's just one of those things they have to prove it first before I totally buy in.
Yeah. And my problem is, so I think that the Bears, while almost certainly have to be improved, are still going to be bad.
Yeah, they're still building. Yeah.
The Packers with Jordan Love, I don't know. And as you just discussed, and I'm with you, it's hard for me to buy into the Lions. But when we did our mock predictions for the Vikings schedule, I came away with 9-8. So am I saying a 9-8 team is going to win the division? I mean, that's a fairly long shot as well. So
yeah,
that's
my
issue.
I would say 9-8 too, Judd. That's kind of where, maybe 10-7, but yeah, is that going to win the division? Somebody's going to have a good year, I would think, right? So I think there's only, I don't, unless Jordan Love just totally stuns everybody, I don't see it being the Packers.
I agree with that, but I do think that we are probably right now building up Detroit too much and shooting Green Bay down too much, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, but
because we're so sure Rodgers is gone, it's all gonna, I don't know. And he last year had become just a distraction.
Well, 100%. But it's hard when you've had how many years of Hall of Fame quarterback play to all of a sudden turn it over to it, and not know what you're getting to really say, okay, they're going to be this. I mean, we don't know. It's just total guess.
I think there's a fighting chance that the NFC North morphs into what the AL Central is right now.
Don't say that.
Just terrible.
Don't say that. Well, that's like when people ask me, you're like, I was at my daughter's graduation this weekend. Somebody said, "Are the Twins good?" It's like, are the Twins good in their division? They're leading the division. I don't know how good they are.
They play the Dodgers. It might be a problem, and it became a problem. But yeah, they're great against the White Sox.
Yeah.
So
anyway. You're right. I think that's how it might be because it's just there's a lot of unknowns and flaws with all those teams. I don't think there's one great team in there.
Absolutely. All right, Chip Scoggins, thanks so much. Talk to you in a couple of weeks, okay?
All right, brother.